What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Stop Crying, Call Ryan podcast. We're sitting here today with the Zachary Kepes, big time investor in the Phoenix metro area. Really good guy, helps a lot of people out there, manages a lot of properties. Super excited to have him here today to kind of hear his story, how he got into real estate investing, and what he's excited about for 2025. Welcome, Zachary.
Great to be here. I mean, you've been a longtime friend of mine. Nice to see the operation in person. I thought you were working out of your house. I show up here and you got pickleball, you got barbecues, you got 50 people in the office. It's a sizable operation.
Golf
Very
carts,
impressive.
All kinds of fun stuff, yeah.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well. So
right.
Happy New Year. I know
too.
you've got a lot of things in the works. You're a super busy guy. Everything that you've done is extremely impressive. Just the size of your operation and what you're able to manage with what you have is insanely crazy. So let's just start in the beginning. Like, how did you end up in Arizona? Where did you grow up? How did you start getting into real estate investing? How did you find your first deal and then kind of lead into where you're at now?
Well, that's going to take a few hours, but good questions. I grew up in the Midwest, originally from Detroit, bringing the hustle to Arizona. Went to school at Indiana, Kelley School of Business, great college, great university, good connections there. Studied entrepreneurship and finance, worked on Wall Street for a little bit, and I realized that it's the institutions that are moving the equities and whatnot. I always like having control of my life, and being an entrepreneur like you, we like having control of everything that we do for the most part.
Right.
And I found that real estate enabled me to pursue a career in something that involved economics, finance, Spanish, communications, relationships. It just embodies everything that I love. And also when you look at the 90% of the highest affluent people in the world, in some capacity they're involved in real estate. So by default, it was a natural progression. My cousins ran a real estate operation in the Midwest. They were looking for human capital, aka other people, to come out to deploy money and work with them to move funds. And in 2002, I moved to Arizona, didn't know anybody, and started building the operation. Went to real estate school for 9 days. I got my license, which I think is very important. People listen to your podcast. People ask all the time, hey, should I not get a license? I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Right.
But I think it's instrumental in what I do. So I got my license, and then from there started building strategic relationships, one person, one door at a time, to start acquiring distressed single family homes is what I've been doing. 2002, August 2002, got the license. Started hitting the streets, running, building relationships, again, one person, one door at a time. And then I was mostly focusing on flipping homes early on in the early 2000s. And then I realized when you look back, history and hindsight 2020 gives some clarity that all these homes that I sold were appreciating. And everyone that I sold that was buying homes for $60,000, selling for $100,000. And I look back a couple years later, those $100,000 homes were $150,000 and $200,000. And our market imploded, as you know, in 2007. And when did you get into real estate?
2001.
Oh shit, it's very similar.
Yeah.
God, you look like you're 22 years old. That Botox does you well. Amazing. No stress. Yeah. Oh, it's rare to find somebody so you've been in the business 23 years, 24 years.
Yep.
That's impressive. So, as you know, I started raising private capital, finished the relationship with the cousins. They had some hard times, and built my portfolio using OPM and then selling off to hedge funds and building a portfolio one home at a time. It's been a wild ride, and you've been here the whole time.
Yeah, no, craziness. So you were flipping and obtaining homes during the whole crash. So how did that affect you? How many homes did you have? Did you end up doing any short sales, foreclosures, any of that stuff? What happened?
No,
then?
the good news was, the nice thing about buying with equity enables you to pivot very quickly. And you can tell by being on the front lines, by having the license, by interfacing with other agents, sellers, buyers, and everybody in the community of what's happening. We're on the front line. So we're gonna know first and foremost what's transpiring immediately by being dialed into the game and not being passive in our investments. So once I felt like, hey, there's no calls coming in on the retail listings and people are quickly dropping prices and my phone is dead, that's an immediate sign of distress.
Yep.
And so at that point we stopped buying, sold off what we had. When you have equity, you have the ability to pivot and adapt. Sure, we took some losses on there, but we were not over levered. We didn't use bank money at the time. It was all just family capital. And I never had to do a short sell because, again, we were diligent on it.
Right.
Or, again, we just portfolioed it, stayed on it, and rented out because the stuff that we were buying actually cash flowed, despite what was happening in the emotional frenzy of the downturn. People panic, and they're not thinking sensibly when you're in distress. You're in panic mode. You're like, oh, let's get rid of it. The world's coming to an end. When, in fact, real estate's never going to go to zero, right? So sometimes you have to take a step back, breathe, look at the macro picture versus the micro when you're in it, and make good decisions.
Right. So you made some good points. You're purchasing obviously at a discount, even at a time that people are paying 20, 30, 40, 50,000 over appraised value just to get into a property. I remember if you got picked to get a new build, right? People are camping out waiting for miles in lines.
Crazy.
Overnight.
We stood in those lines.
It's like a lottery ticket. If you just get one, you're like, holy cow.
Yeah.
And that was insane. I remember like Anthem, West Valley, all those places. So
for sure. I remember those days. You're standing in the lines and the lottos and please take my earnest money. Please take my earnest money. Because you knew once you had that contract locked in, talk about irrational exuberance.
Yeah, we should have seen, kind of felt that hindsight, this is going to end at some point. I mean, obviously a lot of people did the Big Short movie and all that stuff, kind of called it, I remember sitting in like a Starbucks or something and the barista is sitting there talking about how they bought their 8th rental property and you don't got to show any income and all this other stuff.
You're like, something's wrong. Same thing, I'm getting my hair cut. My lady barely speaks English and she's like, tenemos 8 casas en esta ciudad. You have 8 houses? Wow. I'm impressed. Now I'm going to start selling my portfolio. But God bless that person. I hope they still own them. Right?
Yeah. And nowadays, I remember I was in a Starbucks probably 8 months ago, and the barista's talking about how she wants an Airbnb. So I'm like, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, Airbnb. I'm not a. Do you do Airbnbs?
No.
I'm not a fan of the short-term stuff.
They're kind of getting crushed here. So, but buying at a discount during that time when people are just going bananas, how are you sourcing those deals? Same as you are now?
You mean back then?
Back then,
people always have distress, right? There's high utility and a lot of stuff couldn't sell for regular financing. So not everybody had cash. The stuff that I'm buying is non-financeable or it required immediate, a divorce, a firehouse, whatever it may be. There's always high utility sellers and situations. So just like you, if they're crying, you call Ryan,
Fix their problem,
Yeah, if you're on crack, call Zach. I mean, it's the same thing, you need your crack, you call me and I get you a hit.
Got some trash, want some cash?
That's it, trash to cash, that's how we do it. So look, no matter where you are in the market, and you can never pick the perfect time. No one's perfect like that, especially when you're playing the long game. It's just important to be in the game. So no matter what's going on in the market, if you're buying with equity and you're buying below market, you've got some cushioning in what you're doing and protectionary measures.
Right. So at what point or how did you create your beginning avatar of what you want to buy and sell and play in? Because I mean, you're very tight on your space. You don't go out of area. You only stay in certain cities and locations. You only buy certain things. So you've always kind of stuck to what you wanted. You don't vary from that. But how did you create that avatar?
I think, again, going back to just being hands-on, being anal, if it's too far away where I can drive it, see it, feel, and touch it, anything that I acquire, for the most part, I get in it. If it's too far away for me to drive or manage, by default, it's out. I trust nobody, unfortunately, or fortunately, if you will. So when you have hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars on the line, if you're too lazy and it's outside your jurisdiction, who's ever, encouraging you to buy that asset, they have a vested interest to only show you the good stuff. I can guarantee when you have that kind of capital on the line, you want to walk and feel the asset. And then again, if my strategy is long-term hold and I can't manage it and it's outside my economies of scale, it doesn't work when you're scaling a company to have stuff all across the nation. I mean, who's going to manage that stuff? How do you trust the people on the ground? How do you know really what's going on in that market if you're not really fully operating there? So what I've done for 22 years, for most people, would be extremely boring. It's the same single family, ideally 3-bed, 2-bath minimum, single family homes, 2-car garages, same thing day in and day out. I still love it. It's kind of my addiction. It's my crack. Because I know like the bottom, I can make a decision in 30 seconds when somebody calls me on a deal. And that gives you a strategic advantage by being so intimately familiar with those assets in that area that you're setting the comps. I know what those things are gonna rent for. I know what it's selling for because I'm doing it day in and day out. If somebody calls me in a jurisdiction I'm not familiar with, then I'm relying on outside people to help formulate the decision I'm gonna make to stabilize that asset or buy it or sell it or do whatever. I wanna rely on my own, knowledge and intuition.
So square footage plus or minus, are you seeing that range? Like pool, no pool, what do you think?
I mean, look, every toilet has a seat. I'll buy anything, right? I don't buy manufactured mobile homes, never been my core competency. Just the single family, I'll buy condos. Ideally, I want 3 beds, 2 baths, and some form of covered parking. I prefer without a pool. Of course, I'll take it with it. Solar, I bought before, just becoming a headache, and it's just, not my thing. Again, at the right price, if it's owned outright, I'll certainly look at it. The pool and the liability is kind of a headache. You're not really getting a premium for rent by stabilizing it. In a higher end home, it's expected, so you want the pool for $1 million plus. If you're gonna just exit on it, that's fine.
Right.
But I'm always thinking about downside risk and liability and drownings and things like that. So the standard stuff when people say, oh, what's your core competency? What's your buy box? I project, I anticipate what you're asking is, I like just the single family, interior lots, nothing on major roads, that I know I can rent out and get an 8 to 10 cash on cash return, 8 to 10%, and always have, after stabilization, having 15 to 20% equity. It's just that long, boring, delayed gratification game. So that's kind of my core competency. It's what I've stuck with, that's what's worked, and that's how I built the portfolio using cross-collateralization loans, and having that equity in there is key because you can recycle your money infinite times.
Right. So at what point, as far as your bankers and things go, what size portfolio were they wanting to see before they started to allow you to cross-collateralize?
Sure. I remember the first call. So when I was buying back in the day and everything was distressed, I had to use cash. So where'd you get the cash? Well, what I was doing is I was flipping those low-income homes with OPM, other people's money, and I was doing a 50-50 model. So every time I sold a deal, I would get my portion, and that portion would equate every couple deals, would be one house, and then from that one house, you'd rent it out, and then you're getting cash flow, because your cash flow is unlimited on there because you have no debt on those. You're paying cash for them after stabilization. And then I remember I got a call from the Biltmore Bank after I had, I think, 6 homes, and they said, "Hey, Zach, are you interested in debt?" I said, "Where have you been for 3 years?" Yes, the time has come. Yeah, I'd like some debt. They said, well, it looks like you own those free and clear. I said, I do. And I think my first line of credit was like $400,000 or something. I was like, great. But remember when prices were 30, 40, and 50, I'm like, I can go out and go buy another 10, 15 houses. It's amazing. So I remember that. And then incrementally, you utilize that line of credit to go buy new unencumbered assets. And then you repledge those. And it just continues to grow and scale by pledging new assets to that commercial line of credit, to the commercial loan, and continue to crush, just arbitraging.
So you keep talking about OPM, other people's money. So a lot of people looking to get started, don't have any idea how to go raise those funds or what kind of anticipated returns the investors were looking for. Like when you first started doing that, what was kind of your pitch and what kind of anticipated returns were your investors looking for?
Great question. God, where were you back in 2008? You could have been my partner. It's interesting. This game is very consultative. So what you want and what I want is always going to be different. It's always important when you're raising money or doing anything is to ask and always project. So number one, if you can find the deals but you need the money, you want to start all the time manifesting, projecting out to the world. Hey, I'm Ryan, and I've been buying these assets for a long time. I'm looking for some strategic capital partners. If you're out there and you're following my Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever it is, and every time you go to a meetup, you always want to project that. I'm Ryan, I'm looking for strategic capital partners. If you're interested in investing in distressed real estate, this is what my core competency is. Reach out to me. Let's create some sort of strategic partnership. That would be the line. So if you're watching this, you always want to say, hey, my name is so-and-so. I've been doing this. Here's my track record. I'm looking for strategic capital partners in my business. Period, the end. Get the phone to ring and then say, oh, hey, Zach, or hey, Ryan. You saw my reel, or I met you at this meetup. This is my core competency. This is what I'm looking to do. I'm looking for strategic capital for these deals. Are you looking for a preferred return? Do you want to take equity? Do you want a hybrid? What are you looking for? It always starts with the investor. Yeah. How long are you looking to deploy your money for? How much money are you looking to deploy? Someone will call, I got $5,000. I said, unfortunately, that's not going to work. My minimum, would be, $50,000 or $100,000, but I'm looking for reinvestment. I want these long-term strategic relationships. And then also asking that investor, do you want to be part of the remodel? Do you do anything with construction? In what capacity do you want to be involved and affiliated with my business? If they're just like, I'm passive, I have high net worth, I want to diversify in real estate, great. How long do you want to deploy that money? You don't want somebody who's calling and saying, I need that money back, right? So there's multiple ways of servicing these private investors. What I did, and worked best for me at the time, was just a 50-50 model. What that means is they put up the money for the acquisition. I would put up the money for the remodel, so I'd definitely have skin in the game. I would take no acquisition fees, no management, no nothing, no commissions. All that money went in the pot. We split the money 50-50 upon disposition. The investor was paid their original investment. I was reimbursed my rehab money, and then we split the profits 50-50. And that was very successful in a highly appreciating market. The returns were exponential, right? They were probably 30-40% every 60, 90 days. So, annualize those are, 100+% return on your money. And then, of course, they wanted to reinvest. The goal is reinvestment. And then after a while, and you have your own deals and things are good, some people say, hey, I just want a straight 8% or 7%. That's what's crazy about this world, right? It's not crazy. everybody wants something different. If we walk in a bar and I like a blonde and you like a brunette, there's no competition. Right. So here's my wingman Ryan, here's my wingman Zach, nice to meet you, and let us get you a couple drinks and have a good night. Same thing in real estate. Everybody desires different things. Timing of money, returns, risk factors. That's the important thing too, is how to structure these deals to ensure that that investor is protected. A lot of people are getting screwed out there because they could go out and say, hey, I need money on this deal, and they have 5 investors on one deal and it's not disclosed. Right. They raise $1 million and the asset costs $250,000, as you're aware. So it's very important to be transparent, be clear with operating agreements, with first deeds of trust, recording that against the property to protect investors, and running a good business. You're not going to get very far if you're screwing anybody in this business, especially as you know, right. 2+ decades out here working. We know everybody that's been screwed, and we know the good operators because time always tells the truth.
Yeah, the ones that come in the hardest and the noisiest, usually the ones that are out the fastest and
correct.
In jail and all that other crazy stuff. So whenever you're taking money, you're not commingling any funds, you're saying keep your money in your bank. Whenever I find an asset, you're going to fund the asset, you're going to go in first lien position, I'm going to handle all the repairs. How do you protect yourself on the repair side of things? Are you putting some sort of contractor lien on there or something?
I'm the manager of the asset, so what I would structure is the title would either be in my name or a joint venture operating agreement, depending on that investor and how much deals we're doing. Or if I just close in my entity, we just do a private operating agreement notarized with the roles, responsibilities, and expectation, and where the capital's coming from. So everything is spelled out, so there's no ambiguity in terms of accounting after post-sale disposition. So I also have a third-party accounting company to show everything with receipts and everything else to protect the investor and protect myself and go from there. So we always have down to a penny the acquisition, the rehab, who was paid what, receipt. So it's very transparent, very black and white, no room for error. And then there's pictures of progress if the investor's out of state and they want to see pictures and updates, no problem.
Okay. Very cool. So on the reverse of it, now that you're kind of on the other end and people are coming to you to ask for OPM, so what are some things, if you do have money out there you're looking to invest, what kind of thing would you ask? Say I come to you, say, hey man, I'm going to start flipping, I'm going to do this kind of stuff, I need your money. Like what kind of things would you say to me, or what, to try to protect yourself as an investor?
Okay, so you're reversing the role. So you're saying, Zach, I want your money. And you said, well, no, I'm going to invest in my own projects, but I'm happy to sit with you. But I would say, okay, what position is my money in? What is your experience? I'd like to see your track record. Show me your last 10 projects with strategic accounting. How are you accounting for stuff? How are you buying these deals? Are they on market or off market? I want to see proof that you're buying them way below market and, high equity type positions to protect my money if I was to invest. And I want some sort of preferential treatment. If I'm doing it right now and I'm going to risk, $1 million or whatever it is in your operation, give me a pref. I'm happy to do. Knowing what I know now, I would say I want the first, 5 or 6%, and then we could do a hybrid. I want to incentivize you to do well. So maybe it's a pref with, equity. Maybe I only want 40% equity on the back end with the first pref. So I would think about a hybrid structure to incentivize you to do very well. I'd also probably want, if I'm investing with you and it goes very well, I'd want the first right of refusal for successive investments, right? So it's not like, hey, here's my money and you give it back to me in 2 weeks because you wholesaled it and made 50 grand and you pay me 10 grand. That's great, but now I'm back with sedentary money that's not yielding me anything in a money market fund. So I want to know that my money could be deployed for a significant amount of time with a fair, reasonable rate of return. I'd also be worried that you're offering, if someone says, Zach, I'm guaranteeing X, there's no guarantee in anything. When someone says to me, I'm guaranteeing, I'm immediately out. As soon as I hear the word guarantee, it's nice to meet you. Nothing's guaranteed. We could die tomorrow, anything could happen. So when people are overly confident, they're offering 15, 20% returns, I'm also immediately out. So you got to be very careful when you talk about big numbers and someone's overexcited and overhyped. Realistically, with real estate, we know over multiple decades what the expectation is. If someone's getting a double-digit return, that's very, very good. When I say double-digit, 10, 11, 12, 13, that's a great return compared to alternative investments out there. When equity markets, it's a difficult market where they can go up, it can go down. That's the problem. We can't control it. It's institutional driven. Bitcoin, all this stuff, highly volatile stuff. At this stage in the game, and depending on the investor's net worth, a lot of times they are just protecting the wealth and they want incremental growth. They're not willing to risk it all. They've already worked multiple decades to get where they got. So it's very important for them to be very conservative to mitigate risk, but to also provide a return that's relative to the risk.
Very cool. So Fast forward a little bit, you've been in the game for a long time, you've been through 20 plus years of real estate. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're one of the largest single family residence owners in the state, right?
Yep.
Are you the largest or one of the largest?
I don't think I'm the largest. I don't know. It's hard to do research. I don't care about accolades or goals or being number 1, 2, 3, or 4. I just worry about my own portfolio. I'm sure there's larger people, and I hope that there is. I'm not worried about numbers or anything like that, candidly.
But you have about 300 doors
just under
management?
300 single family homes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And explain your team. What does it look like? How are you managing all that? And what does your kind of day-to-day operation look like to manage those? And you're obviously buying 5, 6, 10 houses a month also.
Correct.
That you're throwing in the mix.
So it's interesting. I think a lot of people analyze operations and think they need big fancy buildings like this to run a sizable operation. I run my operation out of my house, which, by the way, banks love. They don't want to see unnecessary overhead.
Right.
It's me, my assistant. I have a full-time bookkeeper. I have a full-time maintenance guy that services all the homes. And then I run 3 or 4 crews full-time doing the remodels. I have a designer, on staff as well for the design stuff. And it pretty much runs autonomously, right? We have roles, responsibilities, but I run this very, very lean. I think a lot of people don't understand their own capacities. I see management companies that have less home that have 5 and 6 people on the management team, and I wonder what they do all day. And I guess my hypothesis is a lot of those investors that are providing those assets to the management company does more of a lipstick job on the remodel, which would keep them busy, right? If you stabilize an asset and you do high quality work and you really do full surgery on the asset, you're going to get a lot less calls. So we are 100% vertically integrated. I have access to all my tenants and calls. People are like, you talk to all your tenants? Absolutely. I'm all about strategic relationships. We collect all the rents. We pay all the TPTs and the taxes and the HOAs. So, with technology now, and again, I don't utilize technology to the fullest level. We do a lot of QuickBooks stuff. I don't have all these online programs. We run this very brick and mortar type business that is predicated with the highest level of great relationships and communication. So most people are like, no way. I said,
that's crazy.
you spend hours with me, you see it, I take calls, resolve problems. Most people run away from fires, right? Something happens and they're fearful of having a conversation, they're running from the fire. I think it's important to run to the fire and put it out and figure out how to, resolve situations as quickly as possible.
Right. This guy's phone's dinging all day long everywhere.
It's ringing on my phone right now. It's shaking the table.
We were at dinner the other day and he's like, hold on, I gotta run out and collect rent. So he's meeting guys in the parking lot, dropping off checks and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that's impressive to manage that many homes. And self-collecting and evictions and all the stuff that goes along with that. How many evictions do you think you've done over your career?
I don't do how many people have I evicted?
Yeah.
Probably 150.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, if you think about it, is not that. It's getting more and more now. If you want to talk candidly, which we always are and transparently, the economy is not as great as people make it out to be. A lot of people are struggling. A lot of people are paycheck to paycheck. A lot of people are quick just to file the eviction. I think it's important to file the eviction, but I think it's also just as important to call and engage those tenants to get a workout plan. Because many of the times, 50, 60% of the time, you can resolve the situation by making a modification on the due date of the payment, or delaying late fees, or making multiple payments per month, or put them on a weekly to retain them. Because the cost of turnover and transition is great. So to those landlords out there, people aspiring to manage and run their own portfolios, communication's the key. It's always much better to work it out than just go straight for an eviction and have no communication. It's all about resolution.
I know on the lending side, it's getting more popular for multiple generations or families to be buying homes together with a few different co-borrowers and putting more people in the home for affordability reasons. Are you allowing that on the rental side? Are you seeing more of that?
Absolutely. You have to factor that in terms of wear and tear, right? Yeah. More flushes of toilet, more hair in the toilets, and filters, and wear and tear in the house, and handles, pushes and pulls. It equates. But you're not getting a premium for it, but I also respect that the more people hypothetically are in there, or adults, not just kids, their ability to service that rental payment because of multiple streams of income. So something that I'm looking at when people are applying, I want to know who's specifically going to be signing, who's going to be in the house, and I want to know who's working. So something to really pay close attention to, because a lot of people are struggling. So if people are consolidating to afford the asset, then I think it's a good thing.
Add people in there. So Zach's a great buyer, obviously here locally. We give him first crack at any local deals that we have, and he closes immediately, makes the process super streamlined, easy. whatever he says he does, closes on time, all that good stuff. So, you know, acquiring all those properties over time, you've always bought from wholesalers? Are you buying direct to seller? Why haven't you ever started your own direct to seller business? You know.
So great question. So early on in the 2002, I was direct to seller. We did a TV campaign, we did billboards, we did radio. We were all over the place. We had a company 1-800-NO-AGENT. We spent $60,000, $70,000 a month in advertising. Back then, that was a huge budget. Competed against the We Buy Ugly Homes guys. Which I haven't even heard of those guys anymore. They're I don't know what's going on with them. But anyhow, I remember showing up to those houses. We'd see Buys houses outside, and the cars were wrapped, and I would just laugh because I knew that those guys were tying it up with a $10 earnest money with an assignment clause. I'd walk in there, and it's a laydown. Hey, how you doing? Do you want a guaranteed? I'm going to give you $10,000 non-refundable right now. No assignment. I can close tomorrow. No contingencies, no inspections. How is anyone going to compete against that? I said, if those guys can give you $1 more than me and they're willing to do the same terms, you should sell to them. 100% laydown. They're like, yeah, they're not willing to do that. I said, well, do you want a guarantee? I'm paying you more than them anyways because I could afford to do that. I wasn't worrying about assigning the contract. So I had a great time doing that. But what I realized was I built so many relationships with agents and selling the stuff and all the other wholesalers in town that at this point I spend $0 on marketing today. So I can pick and choose the asset class based on my buy box. And I'm having a great time doing it. Like I love buying from guys like you that call me up. Hey, I got one in your zip code that you like. Here's the price. Great, let's do it. And I love when guys like you and gals and other wholesalers make money. We go out, celebrate, have a steak dinner, and a martini, and on to the next deal. That's what this business is about. It's about having fun, solving problems, but everybody wins. I used to think, I say before, a zero-sum game. I need to buy the house, and the other wholesaler is going to lose or whatever. And now it's not like that. I was narrow-minded. It's really about creating those win-win, long-term, mutually beneficial relationships. You make money, I make money, we solve the seller's problem, a tenant gets a good house, or the tenant has the ability to buy that house, and we solve the seller's problem, and they put money in their pocket, and we're not, you're not, or no one's cheating them out of some ridiculous deal. I will not be a part of some ridiculous deal. I don't care how much money I can make, it's about the morality and ethics of the business.
Yeah, win-win for everyone. You're always super generous with your time. I know you give back to a lot to the community and help educate and get a lot of younger guys in the business. So that's super appreciative. A lot of people really enjoy that. I mean, I'm sure that makes you feel good to help all these guys and see these younger guys come up out of nothing.
I was at the gym right before. This guy goes, I see you on Instagram. I'm in college at U of A. You got a few minutes for me? I said, yeah. What's your question? Do you think I should get into real estate? I said, yes. Okay, what else you got for me? Well, how do I do it? I don't have any money. What are your thoughts? And I said, dude, put together some questions. Let's sit down. I said, that's a great point. I love, people know they reach out to me on Instagram or FaceTime or whatever. I take the calls. I'm happy to give back. And look, that's what your legacy is. Nobody cares how much money you have. Nobody cares how much money I have. They care about how you made them feel, how you've impacted the trajectory of their life. That's your true legacy.
For sure. And everyone appreciates that. So you've got all these homes under management, you're cruising along doing your thing. You've obviously had some crazy stories that you've told me. Is there any one crazy story that's stuck out to you in either in an acquisition or evicting a tenant or any of that in your day-to-day operations? Like any single one story stick out that's like, holy cow, I can't believe I got out of there alive kind of thing?
How much time do we have? First of all, as we're sitting here, I feel like we're on like CNBC or something. You're a very good interviewer. You run a really tight ship, and the guy looks the part. So I just got to give you, accolades. Like I know you. Look, I know you intimately. You're my friend, and we go to dinners. But it's funny to see you in this capacity. You got your journal out here, the fluidity of the conversation. So props to you. So if real estate and mortgages don't work, I think you can maybe pivot to American Eagle model and also CNBC producer or something. I think it's going to be great. So no matter what, as I always say, contingency planning. Your future is looking good. That being said, reverting back to your question, I've seen some crazy stuff. I've been surrounded by guys pulling a lockbox off in South Phoenix that was nuts. And they're like, the gun wasn't in my face, but the guys were packing and showing, and I'm surrounded. And they're like, how much money you got on you? I'm like, hey man, I'm just the property manager. I don't know in the house. I'm just taking off the lockbox. I was about to get my ass kicked by a bunch of guys, but when you're familiar with your surroundings and you're not cocky and you're not wearing fancy watches and acting like an idiot, and you're diligent about stuff, you're going to be okay. I would say that one time I was walking a house and The seller did not do a good job of their management, and they had some hostile tenants, hence the reason they were selling. And they had a high utility sell because the people weren't paying. There were squatters, and they'd sent their management company out there to walk a couple properties with me to show me the assets. I said, okay, that's fine. I didn't understand why we were there until the second home we went to. The guy says, hey, I know there's squatters in here. I just want to make sure that it's vacant right now, and then we'll walk you through. So he goes, you wait up front. I'm going to go through the back. So he says, hey, we're doing a walkthrough. Make sure if you're in here, you make yourself known. Anyone in here? Anyone in here? I'm standing there. I'm like looking around. The sunshine. It was in Maryville. And the next thing I hear is boom, boom, boom. Like, what the fuck? I run to my car, take off. The guy's wife, the other manager, was running toward. I didn't even see her running my car. Whoa. She's like yelling at me to get in the car. I didn't even see. I'm just thinking, somebody's dead. I don't know what just happened. Turns out a guy was running at him, one of the squatters. He had to shoot at him, and he had a pit bull. And I said, is the pit bull? I'm a huge dog lover, as are you. Is the dog okay? Crazy. I mean, that's pretty serious shit to be shooting at somebody. You know, that's some crazy stuff. So, I mean, it's all there's stuff all the time with transients and squatters and evictions and hostility, but it's again managing that stuff. It's about never escalating your tone and staying calm and communicating. I think you can always achieve resolution by keeping a calm temperament, communicating, and not being, you know, a jerk.
Yeah. You have the sheriff's office or Phoenix PD on speed dial. Like,
hey, Zach. Hey, Zach.
I got another one over here. Can need your help.
Pretty much. There was days like that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's some crazy stuff. Yeah, I believe you told me that story. That came in a whole tranche. You bought like 17 homes in one and went through and cleaned them all out. Did you end up bundling those up and selling them off, or what did you do with those?
I've retained some, remodeled them, flipped them, a bunch of stuff. So it was crazy.
Very cool. So now you're doing some other big stuff, which you enjoy. I know you just got picked up with HGTV's hit series, Flipping Impossible, right?
Yep.
Trash to Treasure, is that what it's called?
Look at you. The research is impeccable.
There you go. So you just had your first episode air, right? So we had your big event, and that was really cool seeing all those people. Yeah, no, thanks for having us. So kind of what are the plans with that? Have they given you more updates? When can people watch it? How can you see it? All that stuff.
So it's crazy. I mean, people think, oh, that just happened. That's great. You're filming today or tomorrow. That was, I mean, I think it started almost over 2 years ago when they had some talent scout find me, and then they vet you, and then you do the videos and Zooms with the producers, and then they want to see tax returns, and they really get into your DNA and blood. Is this person really for it? Because a lot of people represent something and it's not true. And then they come out and we filmed and did a little mini series to then they say, well, there's probably only a 10% chance you even get to this point to get the mini series and a little promo videos and whatever, like an 8-10 minute video. And then a couple months later they said, unbelievable that they selected you for, you know, the show. And then I remember my buddy who is the attorney at Domino's, David, when we first were messing around, he came out here, a good friend of mine, we traveled together. I lived in Spain. He's now one of the chief in-house counsels for Domino's in Michigan, was visiting, and we was making mock videos of me going through the houses and be like, yeah, the show's coming out. I have it on my Facebook. And then I called him, I said, hey, I need you to review these contracts for HGTV. He's like, oh, this is amazing. So we signed a 6-season deal with them, but it is a unilateral contract based on how the show performs and whatnot. The thing that I can say in front of you and anyone else, it is frustrating because they don't communicate. When they said we're airing, I get a text. You're airing on this day. Oh, that's wonderful. Do you know the name of the show? What time is it coming up? There's no communication. I would deal with the producers that are independent producers for the show, and we spent, you know, weeks and months filming, you know, a lot of hundreds of hours of content, and then it's like, oh, we're filming, and then, okay, well, when's the next episode? What's happening? So I could tell you sitting here today, I have no clue. Wow. That's one thing I don't like about that aspect of the business is everything I do, I like having control. What's going on, when? I'm pretty anal and, you know, direct. So I do not have the answer. I'm hopeful that, you know, it had good ratings and reviews, and it is up to them for the continuation. Again, we're committed for a 6-season opportunity, but again, it's all unilaterally based in the TV world. It's all up to them and ratings and reviews and who knows. So I do not know. If I don't know something, I say it how it is, and hopeful and optimistic and grateful if it's a one-time thing or we get the seasons. That's amazing.
I'm sure it will. I enjoyed it. It turned out well.
Thanks.
It looked like it flowed nicely. It looked like you've been doing it for years. I mean, it's kind of what you do every single day anyway.
One thing is that we kept it authentic to
Yeah.
exactly what we do. It's the same type of asset class that we buy. It's my same crews, same people. None of that was BS, which is important to me. I never like represent. If you go on my Instagram or you see me in person, there's a lot of people that have an online personality, and you meet them in person, you're like, are you shy? Who's the person you're representing?
Yeah, right.
To me, I think it's, I mean, do what you want, but just be the same person in and out, you know?
Very cool. So 2025, new year. What are your feelings on the market? What are you excited about? What are you cautious about? Are you full, pedal to the metal? Are you backing off a bit? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I only know one speed, and that is full speed. I removed the brakes from my car, just like I removed the brakes in my business. I don't know anything about braking. I posted that the other day. I think I was with Eric Klein, and then some other people posted. I guess they went to church, and I'm Jewish, and they're like, the pastors, what do they call it? They're preaching, or they're, what's it called?
Preacher. The sermon?
The sermon.
Yeah.
The sermon was talking about 2025 is the year of all gas and no brakes. And it resonated with me. And then I posted, I said, who else, what are your thoughts? I'm all gas and no brakes and whatever. The reality is you always want to be cautious, but I'm cautiously optimistic. I think 2024 was a tough year for most people. A lot of changes with commissions for agents. Interest rates were higher than we've been accustomed to. But I think that 2025, we're going to see a small amount of appreciation. I'm not like thinking 5 to 10%. I'm thinking 3 to 4, maybe high 4% appreciation, which would be favorable for our market. We've been slated as a top 8 market across the United States in Maricopa, which is great and favorable. But so we'll see. I don't deviate in a good market, bad market. I'm always consistently buying. I want to keep the crews busy. I want to aggregate more homes to the portfolio. So my business model is always full gas and no brakes. But in terms of appreciation and more liquidity, I'm seeing favorable for our market.
Yeah, I saw the top 8 thing, and I mean, I've seen appreciation estimates as high as 12%, which is insanity if that happens. But I mean, things like going on in California, and this is a great place to live, and a lot of people
a great point.
Moving all over the country into Arizona, and there's a lot of job growth and a lot of things happening, we've got area for days, right? We can just keep going out. So it should be interesting to see what happens.
But it's very important to state that, everyone thinks like this business is based on liquidity and appreciation. It's not about that. It's, I don't buy specifically. You get the depreciation, which no one talks about. You hope for appreciation, but you don't buy based on hope, and you don't buy solely for appreciation. You buy based on cash flow. You buy because you already have stabilized, locked-in equity when you're diligent, either forced through a remodel or because you're buying diligently and solving problems. So, the reality is you're getting that long-term taxable income by stabilizing these assets. So it's important when people are out there thinking, your business is only as good as appreciation. That's not true at all. It's about buying good assets that are going to cash flow, that you're stabilizing and locking in long-term equity at long-term tax rates.
Yeah, you make your money on the buy and you make your money on the cash flow, and then the market can fluctuate and it don't really bother you. That's where everyone gets burned and in trouble. All the first-time investors go in and they're losing money on the cash flow and they're hoping it appreciates, and then
hope is not a strategy.
AC goes out and they have some tenant destroy the place and they're out of the game quickly.
Correct.
So that's how people get in trouble. So appreciate you coming here. This is awesome. It's been really cool chatting with you.
Hold on, not so fast. Is it my turn to flip the camera?
You could ask me some stuff.
So, I've known you for a while. What are your goals for 2025? I mean, other than staying in great shape, enhancing your pickleball game, going from a 2 to a 3. What are you doing with investments, marketing? Talk about your company. What's your thoughts on interest rates? Where are we at with your stuff?
Everything. So I'm super bullish on 2025. I feel like we've been picking up a lot of inventory on the investment side that's been staying there for a little bit just in the last few months, but just in the last week we've seen 6 or 7 go pending. We're getting a lot of activity on the investments that we do have out there. My whole thing is a little bit different than yours. I love playing the debt game. I love being a note creator. I like being a lien lord versus a landlord. For multiple different reasons. I don't have to deal with the toilets, the phone calls, the AC breaks, any of that stuff. I just got to worry about people paying me, right? Which can be handled through a third-party servicing company, which doesn't create a lot of noise. So,
what percent of your notes are performing right now? Are you at 100%? Or are you?
They are all performing, but most of them are sporadic. So they'll come in like they won't pay for a month or two. Some pay on time every single time. So they have HGH set up, bing, bing, bing. You get them all in the first of the month. And you have the ones that bounced a few times that they won't allow them to do HGH anymore. They got to send in certified funds into the servicer. So those guys pay a little bit more sporadically. I just kind of pay attention to them all, see where they're at. If they start getting 90, 120 days down, I can contact our trustee sales department. They can send them out a 10-day notice and demand letter.
Yep.
Usually by the time that goes out, they'll come up with the money plus the past fees and kind of things. But on average, probably I'd say 50% of them pay on time. The other ones usually pay within 30 to 45 days late, but they do continue to pay. I've only had to foreclose on one person so far, and it was a piece of land. I took the asset back immediately and sold it for more than I paid for it originally.
Amazing.
So super bullish on that. I like to play in the affordable housing arena. Like my avatars, anything land, manufactured home, single family residence under $150,000 or less, because our target cash on cash return when doing note creation is 20% yield. But I'm getting 30, 40, 50% cash on cash return on most of my notes. So
Amazing.
what I'm more excited about even now is we're starting to do more assigning into note creation. So I'm not even having to take the asset down, and I'm offering seller carry terms, and I'm assigning into note creation. Sometimes we're assigning into note creation without any money in the game. So I'm creating debt out of thin air that I'm taking payment on for 5, 10, 15 years, which is awesome. I've done that 3 or 4 times now. So if we can, wholesale into that without obviously closing or paying any money, that's creating debt out of thin air. So it doesn't happen a lot. So but I'm trying to 10x the seller carry gain. We play a lot in the rural area housing. I'm going to push into some other kind of markets. I think there's a big opportunity in the whole equity interest arena. So especially here locally, sellers are getting more educated. They know what's going on in the market. They know what their property's worth. But not every seller wants to deal with an agent. They don't want to have a full-blown circus getting put on the market with open houses and balloons and people inside of their house.
We like the circus.
Show ready. Yeah, we like the circus. Show ready every single day, and they don't want to pay realtor fees, closing costs, and commissions. So every agent in town's like pounding the canceled expired list, the FSBO list, and all these other people. And they're like, oh, you need to list your house. You need to list your house. They're like, I don't want to do that. Well, we come along, we say we have 3 different opportunities for you. We've got our cash offer, and it's going to be here. It might make sense for you if the property is distressed, right? And you have a lot of repairs that need made. It might be a lendable property that's in a little better condition. You're cool with netting a certain amount, and you don't want to pay realtor fees and closing costs. So in that instance, we're able to still put it on the MLS. We don't got to put a sign in your yard. We don't have to put a lockbox on the house. We can control all showings through like 1 day a week that works for you, and people aren't going to be showing up randomly. You're still going to net your number. You're not going to do any repairs, and you're happy and can move along in your timeline. So that's starting to get a lot more popular. And then you have your traditional listing route if it is nice and they want to show it and do all that other stuff. So I think having 3 avenues for these sellers, not just trying to jam a cash offer or listing down their throat, is going to get a lot more popular, especially with all the NRR stuff that comes up where people aren't wanting to pay buy-side agents and all those type of things.
For sure.
So super excited on that. I want to make a push on hard money lending, start doing more hard money loans, getting some of that money to work. And then as far as the mortgage team goes, we're growing, we're hiring. Interest rates are hovering in the high 6s, low 7s right now, depending on what you're looking to do. What's getting more popular is these more non-traditional type of financing, where there's a lot of people out there that are working kind of odd jobs. Like we just closed a loan today. The guy is a Bitcoin trader, right? So typically you're not going to be able to use Bitcoin to buy a property, and he doesn't really have a job, but he's got income and he's got money, right? So we're just doing a no documentation loan for him. He can put 30% down. He can buy the property. He doesn't have to show any income. And we're actually able to use his Bitcoin by transferring it into other accounts in certain amounts that they're allowed to use for the down payment. So he's actually able to buy his house using Bitcoin, which most people aren't going to be able to figure out without a job, right? So we're seeing more like, self-employed people. Obviously, if they're intelligent and they're working with a CPA, that's going to educate them on how to not pay a lot of tax if they don't have to. So they do make a lot of money internally, but they don't show money on their tax returns. So you get different programs to use bank statements and alternate type of vehicles to get them into their properties. And those are starting to get a lot more popular on top of your normal, traditional, conventional FHA, VA type financing. We can do all that stuff too. So
cool.
Working with some bigger hard money lenders to transition some of the matured hard money loans into like DSCR loans and those type of things where people can obviously buy or refinance based on rental projections or current leases. So doing those type of things, I think there'll be a big opportunity for that. But people ask all the time, same to you, is it a good time to buy? Oh, it depends, right? Are you looking to buy, sell, rent, invest? Like what's your purpose? And then are you paying full price for it, or are you getting a deal, right?
Yeah.
So you make your money on the buy, and as long as you do that, and as your cash flow and everything's in line, I think it's always a good time to buy.
I agree.
And if you're paying rent, I mean, really the main reason to buy a primary residence is to secure your long-term housing cost, right? So you're not having rent fluctuations, not having to worry about that, and then you're obviously having debt pay down and building equity and have a place to live.
Mic drop. Okay. Well done.
So, but yeah, that's what I'm excited about. I think it's gonna be a great year. I see a lot of activity. I know a lot of realtors have gotten out of the market. I know a lot of lenders have gotten out of the market. So the ones that have pushed through it, I think there's gonna be a big opportunity when we ever do see some rate movement or seeing some inventory build up. So I'd say just keep pushing to everyone out there that's struggling a little bit, and kind of how we've survived this whole thing is being able to leverage and service our clients on multiple levels. So it's like we can help them with lending, we can help them with buying their house, selling a house, disposition, all different kinds of avenues to service a client, not just being a one-trick pony. And I think that's how you're gonna survive the remainder of your career in real estate. Honestly,
I agree. Makes sense.
well, good. Yeah, man.
Well, I look forward to more conversations. I appreciate the friendship. Amazing dinners as always.
Yeah.
More circuses.
Yeah.
And good times ahead, 2025 and beyond.
For sure. So how do people get a hold of you, follow you? If you have a house, obviously, that's distressed, you need a cash offer, that's the guy to talk to.
And Ryan, in fairness. So they can reach out to me on my Zach Ventures, my Instagram, Zachary Kepes. You'll see a picture of me and the dog, ZAK Ventures. And if you DM me on there, I will respond immediately and we can exchange information and go from there. So
very cool. Well, I appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you have any other content you want to learn about, anybody you would like to see on the show, please reach out to me, direct message me, comment and like below, and subscribe to this channel, and we will be in touch.
yes, we will. Have a good day. Happy New Year.